take a few minutes to introduce, the panel, and then, I let you run the panel, all right? Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so good evening, everyone. So I would like to start the alumni panel session. So first, I would like to give the short introduction for our alumni panels. Okay, so on my left hand, the alumni who sits, on the left hand side here, Kevin Murray, right? Sean Cullen, Octavia, and Mo Salahuddin. Okay. So I just want to give you a brief, information for Kevin Murray. He's a commercial bank portfolio program associate at Wells Fargo. Kevin's just graduated from NAIU in December 2022, and he's the he attained 4.0 GPAs. And actually I remember that when I attend the commencements, you give the speech, right? You are the one that gives speech at that time. Is that no? Okay. And Sean Collins, he's the senior technical consultant at MyBreeze. As a computer science student at NAU, Sean also held officer position in Google Student Developer Club. One of the very successful club in NAU, and that club is belong to the computer science department, right? Okay, so we're really excited about that one also. Octavia, she's the technical consultant at Cullen Consulting Group. She's a technical consultant, and she also specialized in the upgrading the Cullen research suite for university and hospitals nationwide. Last but not least, we have Mo Salahuddin. Yeah, he's the director of global security investigations and emergency management at Wesco. Mo graduated from NAIU in 2011, and he's have double major in political science and justice study. While he worked for the corporate and also have two part-times during his college time. Please, give a big and warm welcome for our alumni panels. And for the first questions, we would like to ask you to introduce yourself, your positions, and your roles at your organization, please. Yeah, just go ahead.
I'll start now. My name is Mo Salahuddin, Director of Global Security Investigations and Emergency Management at Wesco. My day-to-day pretty much looks like I get on way too many conference calls. Okay. But my day-to-day, I get up and log on, handle anything that comes in overnight, break-ins, working on fraud investigations, rolling out new construction projects, consolidating locations, installing technology, working with our technology team on more of a higher end security. So that's kind of my day to day. It's a lot of project and program management, and program development. I also travel around the globe, so wherever there's a problem or there's a situation or interview, interrogation, wherever they go there.
So my name is Octavia. I'm a technical consultant at Huron Consulting Group. They're headquartered here in Chicago, but I'm actually completely remote, so it's pretty nice. Huron Consulting Group is a large professional services and global management consulting firm, but my portion of their pie is going to look like their SaaS upgrades team for their Huron Research Suite, which is a research administration software. What that means is that really, as a technical consultant, I'm working, day to day is different depending on where I'm at in the project lifecycle, but I could be face-to-face time with clients. Our clients are going to look like universities and hospitals, anyone really conducting research. It could look like re-implementation of and reconfiguration of any type of customizations that our clients have to our products. It could be, if something breaks, I'm redesigning and rebuilding their special customization. So it just depends on where we're at in the life cycle of our project. But my title is technical consultant. What my responsibilities look like is more akin to a full stack developer.
I'm Sean Cullen. I work as a senior technical consultant for MindBreeze. MindBreeze is an international search insight company. So you can think of it kind of like a customizable Google for private data. So companies like banks, energy companies, governmental bodies have millions and millions of documents between countless data sources over countless users. And our job is to aggregate all that data into one place and make a search client for that user so that their end users can search for documents across their entire company. And then also just gathering insights from searches done by users to help increase business practices, which is my case at my New York Department of Public Transportation. My company is based out of Chicago. They're US branches. Their main branch is in Reamer, Australia. So part of my job is getting to travel to Europe once a year, which is great. Similar to Octavia, I work as kind of like a software engineer for these clients. I interface directly with them on a daily basis and kind of just outline what they want their search functionality and aesthetically to look like. And then I work with them to create that, customize it, and expand it.
Hey guys, my name is Kevin Murray. So I'm a commercial banker at Wells Fargo. So I work downtown Chicago in the CME building. And kind of my job as an associate is like working with businesses. So we work with businesses from 75 million revenue to up to $1 billion revenue. So these companies are like middle market companies, you could say. And with like consumers, when people think of a bank, you can think of like you guys get credit cards, checkings accounts, savings accounts, small loans, car loans, mortgages and stuff. And like my job is analyzing these companies, instead of like looking at a consumer that wants maybe a $500,000 loan for a house, we're looking at maybe $100 million for a company, and they need this like money. Like you could say they have like different products we could offer them for the company. Like common products we offer them are like revolving lines of credit. These for like short-term stuff. So they can use this revolving line of credit to make a merger and acquisition, buy inventory for seasonal, or they can get like a term loan if they want to buy like a facility, like a manufacturing facility, or they could buy equipment. So it kind of depends, My day-to-day is pretty much different, I could be underwriting commercial real estate, like a $30 million loan, or the next week I could be underwriting over $100 million in a loan. So it's different. So it's a lot of analyzing different companies and different industries. So I kind of learned a lot about the Chicago economy in terms of like where like a manufacturing hub and then also commercial.
So the next question we would like to know what skill or knowledge did you learn throughout the program that you found most useful in your career, especially when you were in any.
So for me, I did double major poli-sci justice studies. So for me, it was understanding how things connected work outside of here, right? So basically, how's the political system aligned, and then having the justice studies partnered with the political science. They are kind of almost as a dichotomy between the two, but understanding those two, then you can draw the correlations and create the process. Follow the money, right? So when you find that and you follow where things are going, you can understand what's running the world, operating one particular way or a different way. So for me, it was more about the processes and processes outside of there.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about computer science and tech in general was that the industry moves so fast that you sign up to be in computer science, you're signing up to be a lifelong learner, and you're going to continuously be teaching yourself new skills when you are in this industry. So having a computer science degree is really, it's going to teach you the fundamentals, but it's not going to teach you everything you know. And I actually think that my time at Northeastern did a really good job of that. And, you know, I work alongside people who did boot camps and just went alternative routes. And even they're asking me questions. Like just recently, I had a boot camp graduate ask me a question about a very fundamental concept within like object-oriented programming. And it was something that, you know, a freshman taking programming 2 would know. Like a pretty low level class in terms of computer science, but it's just something that they're not going to get because boot camp is going to focus on getting you out the door and getting you a job, as opposed to the time I spent at Northeastern really hammered in those fundamentals. And I feel like the foundation of knowledge that Northeastern laid really is really supportive to this day.
I think that's a great point. I think when you work in tech, you spend so much of your degree learning how to learn. It sounds a little silly, but like it is a constant thing you need to do, and every job requires a slightly different set of skills that you adapt to. And once you build that foundation that you get with your degree, it's so much easier to switch to a new programming language or a new cloud suite or whatever it is.
So every client is different. I mean, every job is different. So you're going to have to be able to make that switch, even if in your same job, maybe like within your role. You're going to make that switch so often that you have to learn quickly. And
I think when I was here, one of the things that was incredibly beneficial to me was I was part of the SCSE program, the Students Science Center for Engagement, something like that. And through them, I got an internship with the Chicago Field Museum to do machine learning as an intern, and that was a really great opportunity for me to kind of get a foot in the door in what it looks like to actually work as a software engineer. So I had a direct report where I would report to on a frequent basis. We would go over code, and it was also a position of like, I did not have the skill set to do that job when I started, and they helped me get there and acquire those skills. So not only was it just like helpful to be in an environment that is similar to what you'll experience in an actual career, but also to kind of be put in the fire and told like, all right, learn this, and this is what you're going to focus on. And being able to do it, I think, is just incredibly rewarding, especially when you're towards the end of your degree and you're thinking about if you have what it takes to get into the career field. I think something like the internship or you know, the opportunities that the SCSE provided me was super, super helpful.
So my background is finance, so commercial banking, and my day-to-day job is a lot of accounting. And it's like the fundamental like business language. It's like, if you don't know like accounting, you can't really do like pretty much anything in business. Like, you gotta know what an income statement is, you have to know what a balance sheet is, you gotta know what like a cash flow is. That's like the core part of it. And also too, you gotta learn like in my day-to-day job is like financial ratio. Like you have to know like liquidity ratios, leverage ratios, debt ratios and stuff. And I think with like every company, you get our degrees and stuff, but if you're working for like a good company, they're gonna teach you everything on this job, Like they just really kind of care about that degree and just be willing to learn. It's like banking is very, very competitive, very competitive, but you gotta put yourself out there. That's like managers love like the drive, the ambition. They want that, and they just want you just to learn the fundamentals of the thing. They'll teach you everything on it.
Before we proceed to our next question, I'd like to know if you have any question for the panel to go ahead and ask.
You said your major was like, want to know, what was like when you first got out into you're feeling like measuring up maybe like with the marketing. So what was like some of the first internship or job that you had once you got your degree? Or did you have an internship?
So I had a very unconventional path. So like my college career was from 2018 to 2022. So think about it like the pandemic happened from like 2019 maybe. So I couldn't really get like an internship. A lot of these companies, had internships, but they were remote. When banking had them, but it's all remote, but you're not gonna really like, So I had the opportunity, one of my good friends, he's in the crowd, Harris, he's the accounting major, and he texted me one day, like, hey buddy, like, there's like this like entrepreneur coming northeastern, and he created this site called Skilled, and it's a startup company where you have the opportunity to work for like a startup company, so companies that are pre-revenue. So I had the opportunity to work for these two companies, and I was like, you could say a consultant. So I was making like financial models for them. I was making pitch decks that were used to rate, 10, 20K, I was analyzing the industry, So I put that internship on my resume and kind of leverage that for like banking. Telling my manager like, oh, I could analyze companies. I could be like these company trade companies. So you kind of knew like going into this job, I knew accounting and analyzing. But I think with like finance and stuff, it's competitive. So you gotta network, you gotta put yourself out there, So you guys, I'm assuming, do you guys have LinkedIn and stuff or? Yeah. So I think one thing is like, just connecting with alumni, just talking about your career paths and stuff and just all that stuff. Because like when you know someone in the company, they could help you like get the internship over there.
To speak a little bit to Kim's point, because when I left school, I also went to a startup, and I think that's a barrier that is a little lower than your average, like 500 company or something like that. And I think that's a good way to get in the door. I think I did not stay in that environment because it wasn't for me long term, because it is a lot of work and it is a lot of it can be very stressful and things like that. I think it's a good way to get your foot in the door for sure, because they're looking for younger people who are looking to learn and grow, and you will learn and grow a lot in those positions. And my case, it just wasn't something I wanted to stay with long term, and I had another opportunity that I really enjoyed. But yeah, that is a good place to look if you're looking for a place that is looking to invest in people. And
Yeah, I can third that. I also worked at a startup as like my first job. It was during my time at software engineer at the company that was working. I helped develop their real estate marketplace platform, basically the front end of the marketplace platform they were trying to develop. And it's definitely working at a startup, especially you're usually going to be one of one, like, and so that's an entirely different experience. It's not for everyone. It's not for me. It's not for everyone. But I think being in a startup environment, it teaches you a lot about yourself, and I think it teaches you a lot about what you do want in a job, which I think is a worthwhile experience to learn, especially when you're younger. I mean, I'm younger too, obviously, but when you're younger, it's definitely, it's hard to know what you want without having the experience of seeing what you don't want. So it's a startups are definitely an experience.
You might have just interject. Can you kind of repeat the question a little bit? Because I think of two potential strategies you could possibly use to work from school into work. Right. So,
I was particularly talking about myself, just how to get started with my major is business finance, transition from that degree and then go into the workforce and how to like stand out and confident in the skill set. But it's kind of
so business finance is pretty large, right? It's very big, right? So you got to find your particular niche that's most interesting to you, right? So you got to find that area of business finance that's very interesting to you, and then look at the job descriptions that are in there, and take a look at where do you see is your potential challenge, right? Your challenge point. I probably shouldn't be saying this on a recorded camera, but if you know you can do the work, okay, make sure it's on your resume. And if you know you can do the work, you just got to jump. Right? So that's how you're going to be able to do it. And once you're there, the U.S. Census Bureau says by the time you get to 40 or 45, the average person will have 20 to 25 jobs. So that's the current rate and that's the current trend. So what that's telling you is that people are not staying at jobs as long as they have it. So you've got to get out there. Just take one on, find the job description, which is your particular niche where you see yourself 5 or 10 years from now, right? And then go take that job on and and apply for that job. And try to get into the roles, right? And then from there, you're gonna feel comfortable. You're gonna know where your push point is. Where's your challenge point where you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing now, right? That's what you're gonna try to find. And then the second possible strategy for is contract. Okay? Contract work can be good and bad. Right? I would say don't stay in contract work for a very long period of time, right? But you can find a company that just has part-time or temporary jobs that you can go work at a Fortune company, right? And then you stay there for 6 months and work on a project, and then hey, you can move on to another organization, and then you can feel comfortable with the different types of projects and things you're doing, and then you can be like, oh, well, you know what? I need to go apply here. And typically, just to be straight up, they're not going to pay you a lot. Right? Both categories just coming out, right? They're not. But the whole point, what I try to say is, the point isn't really in entry when you're starting to make a ton. You're just, statistically speaking, unless you've got the next thing, next best thing since sliced bread, you're not going to make a ton, right? You're there to get the experience and learn and find where's your point where you're going to kind of fail, right? And that's it. So that's what I would recommend. Yeah.
You guys mind if I connect with all of you on LinkedIn?
Please do.
Yeah.
So I have a question for Mo, and I know it's because
your journey is a little bit different than
Yes.
everybody else's, not having a business degree or a technical degree. At what point in your career, how far along in your career were you that it made sense to pursue an MBA? 'Cause I know a lot of our students will, and years ago, back when I was in college, it was unheard of to do an MBA right after your bachelor's, but now it becomes more and more common. At what point for you did it make sense that that was the route to go? So, what ended up happening was that I reached a certain pinnacle or a certain point in my career. When I reached there, I realized that I wanted to go further. And in order for me to go further, I looked at this is part of the strategy, okay? Strategy classes that I'm sure you're taking. Is part of the strategy is you take a look at what other people are doing, right? And I was taking a look at other people. And I knew everyone else had a master's. And I also realized that, hey, I need to do something that's going to make me stand out away from the other person, which is also the reason why I did a double major here. Because when I was sitting next to my competition, no offense, I was like, I remember everybody here is going to go to the job market and they're going to compete for similar jobs that I am, right? How am I going to separate myself away from everybody else, right? And that's what you're trying to do from a strategy standpoint. What makes you special or unique? Is it the additional certifications? Is it that you did this extra, internship? Did you work on this type of quality project? Those types of things. So to answer your question, Glenn, great question, right? I realized I'm only going to come this far. I'm not going to be able to go to that next level unless I had to.
Talks about the job market being the moment. I want to get some insight from you guys. In the job, in your job right now, how do you feel about it?
Great question.
Okay, so just only because I'm taking a shot. I'm just a little bit older. I graduated 2011. All right, I don't look at almost 50, right? So I've worked for 4 Fortune 40 companies. I'm actually working for the smallest company I've ever worked for. And I've been through the financial crises up and down. And this is what my experience has shown is that times when there is a financial crisis or there's a crunch, if you thought you're going to get a job with 10 applications, you may not get a job until you get 50 applications out. And the other thing that I did, I looked at the job descriptions, I looked at my resume, and I tweaked little pieces to make sure that they match. And I didn't lie for something that I completely obviously can't do, but I did tweak it to make sure they match to be like, hey, this is what I'm gonna do. Again,
True.
I enhanced the truth, exactly. You can't be 100% like, hey, this is it. And if you're taking a blanket resume and just sending it out to 50 employers and it's the same one and you're wondering why you're not getting a job, it's for that reason, okay? Everybody's doing what you're doing. It's getting online and going, what's a template for a resume, right? Go talk to everybody else and see what their resume looks like, right? You got to make your resume look different than everybody else's. That's how you're going to go work for these Fortune 40. If you get online, it directly proportionate goes back to how much time are you going to put into making your resume, right? And applying for the jobs. To answer your question, the jobs are there. You go online, go to LinkedIn. I don't know if monster.com so long, I'm aging myself. Indeed, job seeker, whatever. Like, go to those. There's so many jobs out there. It's just when you apply for it, what are you doing to make your resume stand out from the next person? And Vlad and I were originally talking about me presenting on some of the success stuff, but a thing that I like to tell people is that when you're applying for the jobs, right? Your job, you're not trying to get the job. You're trying to get the interview. Okay. Everyone forgets that point. Is that your ultimate goal is to get the job, but recruiters are only spending 20 to 30 seconds per resume. Okay. So what are you doing between the 100 applications that came in that this is the person we need to call? Okay. So in the job market, I think you're fine. Just apply, but just remember, because it's a tighter economy, you got to push harder. You got to apply for 100 jobs. You got to apply for 200 jobs. And don't get discouraged if you don't get a call back. It's, what is it? Wayne Gretzky's saying it's like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take or something like that. So does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask the people in the room just real quick? Is anyone here in computer science tech? Okay, so I think this answer is gonna differ slightly.
Yeah.
Because the tech market has been very bad recently. And I think what I would say is, there's been a lot of major layoffs at high bang tech companies. So right now there's a really big flood in the market of very skilled engineers. So I do think that is a trouble point for young people. But what I would say is to kind of focus in on where you want to search for those jobs. So I think right now going to big tech is going to be a much higher barrier than it's ever been before because of those reasons. But what you call like small or medium tech, there's still plenty of business there. Every single like chiropractor needs a software engineer. Every company on this planet in some form or another, once you reach a certain size, is going to have someone who needs technical skills, a website, a database management, whatever it is. So I would just say target, especially coming out of college, target technical jobs that not technical. That's going to be your best rate of success. Is to be the tech person for a smaller company or a mid-sized company, rather than the software developer. So I think the next 2 years, that's going to be a lot tougher of a barrier to enter into just because of the oversaturated market on that. But that's kind of where you come in, right? Because a lot of those engineers have very big salaries that other companies are not going to be willing to pay. And guess what? You're going to take a lot less and be happy with it. And some companies will be very happy to hire a person with less experience for a reasonable amount of money.
Like you were saying, like looking for a job is a job because you have to keep applying, like you said, you have to be persevering about it. And something that I noticed with students or just people in general is like they get their degree, whatever, and they start applying, but they don't do the extra effort to try to work for that company. Like what one of my professors told me is if you really want that job, go in person, hey, I applied, try to get to the biggest person in charge, be like, hey, I applied, I think that I'm really good for this, or try to even just know more about the company. They rejected you already, then say, oh, what can I work on so I can work with you guys? Because that shows that you want to work for them or you want to get better. So it's just more about your perseverance as a person. And I work on that every day. That's what makes me overshine with others.
So there's good and there's bad in what you said. If you apply to a company and they reject you and you show up at their headquarters saying, I want to talk to the next person in charge, they are going to call the cops on you. That they're going to look at you like you're crazy. But what I think the gist of what you want to take out of this though is like perseverance is definitely going to work in your favor. And maintaining like grace and maintaining professionalism, maintaining a positive impact at every step of the way, even through that rejection. That's what you want to do. And I can speak my own experience kind of is an example of that. So my current company, I got hired in my last semester. I got hired as a technical consultant at Huron. And what ended up happening is they suddenly went into, like I was filling out my paperwork days before I started, and they suddenly went into a hiring freeze like that. And I suddenly didn't have a job. Even though I was days away from when I was supposed to start. Like they said, called me up, said, hey, we're going into a hiring freeze. So sorry, we'll give you a call. Like, oh, okay. I didn't have a job. Didn't hear anything for months. It took me reaching out to the people that I interviewed with. One of the people I interviewed with was a director of a team, so higher up. And I said, hey, you and I connected. You were really cool. You really were authentic. I think you represented the company well. You our experience represented X and Y pillars of the company's values, and you left a good impression of the company. I still want to work for the company. You guys said that you would give me a call back when the hiring freeze ended, but I haven't really heard anything. You know, can I have an update? What's going on? Like, I've been left in the dust. What's going on? Well, with my experience, the reason I hadn't gotten a call back is and like fell to the side. And because I emailed that person, and you know, want to know really what I connected with that person on was just he had been to Chicago and we were at the same concert one year. That was literally it. He was like, "Oh yeah, I had been to Chicago." And I was like, "Oh, well, what'd you come here for?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I go to this concert every year." And I'm like, "Oh, what concert?" And I tried it out of him that he goes to Riot Fest every year. And I'm like, "Oh my god, I went there too." And we just had a really good conversation during the interview. And so then 6 months later, when I emailed him and I said, "Hey, you were cool, I was cool, let's talk," it wasn't weird. And he had brought my name up unprompted in a meeting on his end with the recruiting agency. And said, "Hey, we want to hire this person, bring her back." I got a call from the VP of the recruiting agency that said, "Hey, they want to hire you, let's come back." So maintaining that relationship and being professional and having grace throughout that entire experience, even when shit went left and I got did dirty, like I ended up now having a job a year later or 5 months later. So correct, good, like maintaining perseverance and like maintaining that connection. And I think that's really the point, is like creating those connections and having those really good one-on-one experiences, even if it's only for an hour of that person's time, that can like lead to having a job. So, and I think that's one thing I want to talk about your question as well, is like leveraging your connections with other people, whether that's just people that you met in the shop or people that maybe went to like NIU, like us as panelists. If you guys are in 2 months applying for a job in LinkedIn and you see, "Oh, hey, this person used to work here," or "this person knows this person," like maybe I can talk to them, like reach out to those people. At the end of the day, the worst thing that they're going to say is, "No, sorry, I don't feel comfortable referring you to that job or connecting you with that person." Like, you have to be your biggest self-advocate in this entire situation. Otherwise, you're not going to get it there.
To elaborate on that, just some typical Octavia Mo's point, the idea of applying to a lot of jobs and potential feedback you might get. So when I applied after leaving college, I probably applied to 20 jobs a day, every day, as long as there were jobs. So, you know, I went through several hundred before getting interviews. So that's certainly not uncommon. Don't get disgruntled if it feels like you should have gotten something by now. Like there is, that percentage is very high. It's just, that's how it works now, unfortunately. And a lot of that, you won't receive anything back. You'll never, I had a company who reached out for the second interview a year after my first interview. And that was when I was 6 months into the company I work at now. And I got an email that said, "Hey, do you want to come in for a second interview?" And it's like, "No, I didn't think you were going to hire me. It's been a year." Like, so I think getting that loop and just understanding that, like, there are plenty of things in your control that you can do to try and identify yourself, but also just don't get too down on yourself if you are not receiving feedback or if you're applying to more jobs than you expected. It's just keeping going and improving and specializing, like most that that'll get you in that door quicker.
And another thing too, like when you guys are applying, you guys should have like an intention. You know, like for me, I wanted to work like in banking downtown. So, you know, what Mo said earlier, like finance is so broad, you know, you have to like pick your niche for that. You know? I kind of always saw myself working downtown, analyzing the companies. So I knew, like when I was applying, I wanted to work for a big four bank. It was JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Bank of America. I had that intention of very clear. And when I was like, going on LinkedIn every day my last semester, you know, I was like looking for like those types of jobs too. And number two is, like I said this earlier, it's connecting with alumni, you know, having just genuine connections. You know? Like people like DM me on LinkedIn, you know, saying like, "Hey, can you get me a job at Wells Fargo?" Dude, I don't even know you. You know?
Yeah.
They're kind of like taking like value out of you without even getting to know you too. You know, but having that personal connection, like, "Oh, I went to NIU, we're Golden Eagles," you know, that, you know, you don't find a lot of people, you know, like that.
hey, I saw that you are in this industry and I'm interested in knowing more about this, and this. Find common ground, but even if it's something as random as you saw that they posted about International Women's Day, or you saw that you like have a mutual Facebook friend, or know this person, or like, I basically got a job because me and this random guy in Portland like the same band, so it can be.
Like you were saying, or hoping, for LinkedIn, I do have before, I don't know, but they strive for the same things that I'm going for. So it is, in a way it is okay, but in a way it's not, unless you have something
Like
connected.
social media.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So, but yeah, sometimes opportunities have risen from that. People I don't know, they offer like scholarships. I applied for them, I got it. So it's like
It's a great
This is a
tool.
yes, it really is. So
There's a timeline between like social media and like the networking component of LinkedIn.
And you know that I sometimes also give some advice for my student also, try to get some mentor or the professors who know you are good in a specific skill and try to have them endorse you in the LinkedIn. Because in LinkedIn there are some features that you can get endorsement, so that also can help you, especially if the company use the software. Like you just mentioned that, some companies just spend like few seconds to scan through your LinkedIn account. So if you have endorsement, so those kind of software use, stick right there. That's gonna also help.
So you guys said you started at like front company. I guess like I'm gonna be graduating soon. I've had trouble finding like jobs I'm interested in. I guess how do you tailor your job? Well, I'm a finance major, but I like construction. So it kind of feel the same.
I think two good places to start are what you're good at, what you like. Hopefully those are the same thing. They might not be. So I think another one would be what you want to do. So I think entering kind of that subset, I'll speak to my own experience because tech is a very broad field. It's like financing, and there's subsets that are very different from one another. So I really found towards the end of my time here that I enjoyed kind of the more data science back-end computing stuff. So that's where I kind of focused in, and that's where my first job was at a pharmaceutical data science startup. So I think it is kind of a mixture of deciding what you want to do and what you want and what you think you would have skills in and have applicable skills in. So in my case, I had that machine learning internship, which is very similar kind of background and systems. So for me, that was a really good transition into something that I thought was interesting and something that I had experience in. So the other sort of that would be trying to experience the things you're interested in. Speak to some of the financial specifics a little more, but that's where I would start.
Thanks. And so I work for the construction projects, for the security technology to protect the building, etc. Right? So I think you've got to figure out, from what you said, you didn't like the jobs, right? Is that right?
I don't like them. I just have like a hard time finding quality jobs or interested jobs that might interest me. Like I like my current job, but it's just I don't know how long I want to.
So I think finance and construction is a great two pieces together. Because construction, real estate, finance, that's not ever going to stop. This is going to continue on till we're all dead and gone beyond. Okay, so you've got a solid career path. Then you just got to figure out, do you want to work for your GC, the general contractor? Do you want to work on housing construction, real estate construction, right? You want to bid, I hire vendors to come and install $1 million systems at our buildings, right? Is that where you want to go, right? So I think first you got to figure out where is it that you want to spend your time on, or do you want to be bidding on projects for installing? These guys are consultants, right? So they're working on this stuff to, hey, put in the infrastructure of a building, right? So then you gotta figure out where is that challenge point, or what's the most, what are you gonna do passionately?
Yeah.
And then when you do it, everything else will follow.
As far as actually vetting like the job description, and I think about the job description I receive in LinkedIn from what I actually do. And the two don't match at all. So yeah, they are super vague, but really it's just because you can only have, you don't want to be reading 5 pages of breakdown.
Yeah.
So I think if I were to try to go back and find out more about my specific job, it would probably, I'd probably want to reach out to maybe someone in that position and ask questions. Like maybe someone at that company, be like, hey, I'm interested in this role. Can you just tell me more about your day? Maybe they just send a message or two. If you ask some really specific or good questions, you're going to get some good answers. So that would probably be helpful. Or if there's, maybe depending on who posted it, like LinkedIn sometimes will tell you if a specific person is posting it, like the hiring managers, reach out to them and ask questions. But I think that's definitely the point where you make contact and say, I'm interested, but I need to know more. You're not selling me this vague job description.
So you got it over there.
I'm 36. I took 2 years of college, college, and I transferred. And so, not have much of a like large gaps, like I wasn't worried about that. So that's very
Yeah, so I can relate. So I started my career without a degree, right? So I started as fully transparent. I started as a trade school, and I lived on my own, and I just went to school. I actually did go to community college as well, and then I came here and then I graduated. So I can relate. I started late because I full transparency. I told my parents, I said I'm out, and I'm going to the world, right? So I understand what you're saying. I think the thing is that how you fill in those gaps and how you put a positive spin on those gaps is going to be. But at the end of the day, the employer is going to look at, hey, did you finish the degree? Yeah. Right. And what value? These are the value propositions, right? This is what the value proposition made. And some people are just late bloomers. I consider myself a late bloomer. I didn't go the traditional path. 18, graduate 22, and then I graduated I got my degree like at 30 or 31. So, right, exactly. But to answer your question, I think it comes down to the spin you put on it. At the end of the day, maybe just don't even put it down. Just put down your experience and the places you worked, the rough, maybe rough dates, or maybe the last 2, right before you graduate, right? Or if you're working another job, maybe just put that. They don't need to know all that, and it's against the law for them to ask you what your age is, right? And again, we were talking about what I mentioned was get the interview, right? So maybe just put down, you don't need to give your last 16 years of work you've been doing. Give the last 5. I've been consistently at this job. I graduated, here I am. That's it.
Yeah. A way to mitigate that, you could, so on your resume, in the experience section, you could highlight specifically the section relevant experience. That way, because again, the idea is that you have relevant experience to whatever jobs you're applying to. You don't need to have everything I've done the past 20 years. In my resume, I don't have the section titled as relevant experience because I'm someone who has had a million different types of jobs. And so if I had every single experience I've ever had, it's going to be like this long. And that's just honestly, like I've never even been asked about the gaps in my resume. And I actually do have the dates of my different experiences. I have a year between some of my experiences, but I've never been asked. And at the time I was asked, it was 9 months into my career. So yeah, and it's so I mean, I think people are moving away from asking about gaps in experience, but a way to mitigate that period and try to lessen the blow or lessen that even being a thing, remove the dates. It doesn't matter when that happened, it matters the experience you have, experience the date. And even if you want to emphasize how long they do something, like if you have 3 years experience or something, say 3 years. I don't know when was your first.
I also think, as something we acknowledge as well, it's just really not too necessary to put that on a resume if you have a degree from university, because it's really about that degree. It's not really about where you started it, in my opinion. And
You don't need to put the start.
I tend to put just the graduation date, yeah, because that's the most relevant information. I think that personally, I don't think that should affect an opinion of a student, whether they started at a community college or not. And I think that in every position I put it in, I've found that it was not important. So I think emphasize where you got your degree, what you did there, or what you did when you graduated. Those are your skills.
Never even been asked my GPA either. Like I've interviewed at Microsoft, interviewed at Oracle, did not care about my GPA.
It's if you have a good GPA, it's good to put it on a resume as a booster. But if it's
You don't, they don't
if it's-
care.
if it's- yeah. It's the-
Just allow that. Here's the thing, so, there are 2 questions I have for you. So how long have you worked before you started your MBA? And post your MBA or post graduation? Did you actually work, was your work very similar to what you had done before? Tangential, was it important to what you had done before?
Yeah, pretty much the work that I'm doing, started out very basic and entry level, and just kept getting, to be fully transparent, right? I started at, on the contract side of Goldman Sachs, for about 9 years. And to, Citibank as area manager, and then I went to Walgreens. Walgreens is a big company that had 10,000 stores. A lot of people don't realize that. And then went to work for Northwestern Medicine downtown, and I worked for Wesco now. So I just progressively took more responsible roles. And the thing was, I remember early on, I wasn't making, like, it was like $8 an hour or something. Different thing. My goal was always, I want to learn as much as possible to provide the best service possible. Right? That was always it. And then as you progress further and further, you're going to learn more. And then you've got to look ahead at that 10-year, in that 5-year. I'm going to learn X, Y, Z, and then I'm going to move on. I know the days of when you stay with a company 30, 40 years, that's pretty much gone, right? That's next to nothing. So understanding that is that, hey, you're going to start entry level somewhere, and then you're going to progress further down the road. And you should always have that mindset. And somebody actually told me this a long time ago, one of my mentors was, always have a resume in your back pocket. I don't want my boss to see this right now, but I do have an updated resume. It's in my back pocket. But I'm very honest, I have an amazing boss. All right. And then to answer your question about the MBA, I finished 2011 here. I just finished the MBA during COVID. So MBA is relatively new for me. And prior to that is when I got like a year, let's say, or maybe a year and a half before I got the current position that I'm in now. I had gotten that. And that's when I realized I was doing things that were just pushing the boundaries of, hey, some of my knowledge sets. And I could provide a better value if I had more of the business lingo and language as I was talking to executives, and which was a driver for me to go, hey, let me get this. So that way I can sit in a conference room or I can sit in a boardroom and I'm able to talk intellectually about business. Because when it gets to that senior level, they're talking numbers. Okay, you got to be able to talk numbers. You got to understand value proposition, balance sheets, cash flow, inventory cycles, things like that. You've got to know those things because they're sitting in there more than half the time they're talking about numbers. Okay. Because ultimately those executives are responsible for the stock prices and they're responsible to make sure the company's profitable. So that's kind of my journey. And I hope that answers your question.
So maybe continue with questions. What were you proud of most at the time that you were
I think it's like the people you meet, you know, like everyone I've talked to or who I became friends with at NEIU has like a story, you know. We didn't really come from like, you could say money, or maybe we had that first chance. So we had something like, let's say collectively, something like the same, you could say if that makes sense. Like a lot of people that I've talked to are just humble, you know, they're driven, you know, and I think just like that, you know. Those are like real people, you know. Maybe like some schools I like, you know, I had friends that go like DePaul or New York. And their friends, the friends I had from them, they're kind of like stuck up, you know, a little whatever, you know. They're not really like, I don't know, just have a weird vibe or whatever to them. Like, I mean, I knew it's just like the people.
So I'm gonna answer that question first. Piggyback on what exactly he said. Which is 100% NEIU for as long as I can remember, right? In graduate training is a working person's college. Everybody that usually comes through this, that feeling that hey, when I know today, and this is what happened. Okay, and it's quality education. It's a great place to get a degree, and that's what it's known. That's what it's known for. And the second portion, I remember.
Yeah, I fully want to echo what you're saying here. So many people from different backgrounds. I work in life to be around people from different backgrounds. People, it's one of the things I'm most proud of is both Octavia and myself started during COVID, and we met in a computer science one online Zoom class. Yes, too. But we met in a environment where it was very hard to socialize. So when we became friends through that class, we talked a lot about how much we wanted to try and bring students together. So that's something that we did. We created a computer science mixer that we threw for students. We did about 6 of them in the span of maybe a year and a half. And I feel like we made certainly a lot of friends and brought people together. And that was something that I wouldn't have predicted I would have done going into college, because that wasn't necessarily the type of person I was to like run things and organize things and be that type of person. But it was just at a time where I feel like all of us as students felt very disconnected, and I wanted to find a way to connect to people. So I'm very proud that we did that. Successfully brought a lot of students together.
Part of that, also, part of the quality of my professors. I'm my personal guy, but part of my professors, because I think Northeastern prides itself on being, like everyone said, like working with college. They pride themselves on being like affordable, but I think people don't really recognize just how great the professors are here. And obviously my experience is pretty much stayed within the semester market, give or take the professors. But I mean, just the professors here are so great. They're so understanding, and I think you really have to be understanding to be a professor here, because Northeastern has a demographic of students that is unlike any other. We have so many students that are working, not just working, but I mean, they have families, they have kids. Our demographic of students is higher than average. You know, I think the average student is 21, period. Is that right, Vlad? A little bit higher. So I mean, the average student that is here is higher than the average student that's graduating. So the amount of empathy and grace that the professors here just seem to have built in, whereas I know I actually, I was a transfer student as well, but I didn't just come to the community. I also attended another private university. I went to the Institute of Technology. I had a horrible experience there. which it was basically the complete opposite, where the professors and administration there pretty much expected your only experience and your only priority was to be your classes, which just wasn't the reality for most people, but especially like as a low income student, you have work, you have your life, and those things on top of being a student in a rigorous program, they don't collide. And so having all of that on top of a complete like tone deaf administration and tone deaf empathy, like I was like, I'm good. So then to come to Northeastern and have the complete opposite experience where all the professors were like, have your life, we understand that. It was shocking. And it was something that it taught me so much. It taught me that you're capable of like finishing college, and that college doesn't have to be this oppressive experience of you can't work and live your life and finish school. And it gave me the motivation, and my professors were extremely supportive in my like worst moments of my life to finish school. So yeah, definitely I was proud of my professors.
The one actually you made just like the quality from that standpoint, but from like a medical standpoint.
Oh yeah,
they're very accomplished people, and some of the professors who we took classes under were also professors at other universities, and at one point one of them told me very straight up, like, this is the same class here as it is at another university. At this university, it's 10 times the price.
yeah.
And he was just very clear about that, and I appreciated the candor, and I appreciated like perspective on that. Yeah, that some colleges are exorbitantly priced in a different way, and their priorities are very different.
Yeah, and I've even had people from other universities reach out to me and ask me about professors at their university because they see that they used to teach here at Northeastern. And they're like, hey, is this a great professor? And I'm like, take that professor. That's the most amazing professor. She's phenomenal. She's super intelligent. And then there's even professors like anyone, friend or the professor on LinkedIn. There's a professor who used to work here. She's not even a teacher anymore, but she is a software engineer, like a senior at an engineering company in the suburbs. And she's like, hey, I'm hiring for a lead software engineer. I'm hiring for a senior software engineer. These are direct reports to myself. And I'm over here at my company. But I'm seeing these job postings. Oh no, you can record. It's fine.
We're just talking about what we're saying.
I see these job postings and I see the salaries that she's posting, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting my coworkers and I'm sending these jobs to my coworkers like, hey, you're underpaid at my company. You can make more money over here. Do you want me to refer you? Like, and I'm just like, yeah, the person you'd be reporting to is phenomenal, super intelligent. Like, you would like, it's just the quality of professors is astounding in terms of intelligence.
Almost, but I also would like to ask you another question regarding the professional development. So, how do you grow yourself? How do you, develop yourself that you can progress in your career?
I'm going to start with this couple of parts. One of the biggest things that impacted, I think, my career, because everyone sitting here is going, I want to make more money, right? So, you're welcome to tell me I'm wrong, but everybody in here is going, hey, I want to make money. Yeah, amen, right? And what I'm going to tell you is that you can't go after it. You have to go after the service. The money follows afterwards. When you go sit down, you have a waiter or waitress, or like when you're trying to pay for Potbellies nowadays, you're like, you want $1 tip, but I haven't even tasted my sandwich yet, right? You have to get the service first before. So I signed up for this organization online. Anybody can do it. It's here. It's Napoleon Hill. Okay. It is a very old, he wrote the book,
Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich. That's exactly it. And you can go online and you sign up for a free daily email. Okay. I get this daily email I don't necessarily read it every single day, but back when I first signed up for it, I used to read it every single day. They send you a paragraph, all right? And I would take the time to read the paragraph. And even though that book is like 100 years old right now, literally, right? That one paragraph used to help teach me on how to think differently and how to view business and how I should be producing my value. Okay, so I think that's the first piece. And the second piece is really knowing what is it that what's your goal? Like, where do you want to do it? Is it going to be construction and finance? Is it going to be in computers, right? You have to know that. And if you're wondering, how do I know that? Go get a job in it. Go get a contract job in it and go try it out. Go have some fun. Maybe you don't like it. Guess what? You never have to the point, you don't have to put it on your resume. Nobody's going to know, right? Who's going to know? The only person that's ever going to know if you apply for a federal government job. That's the only time you have to disclose that. Yeah, if you apply for the Department of State, CIA, or something like that, you have to disclose that information. But other than that, corporate America, us corporate guys, no, you don't have to say, don't have to put that up, right?
How about the state of Illinois?
The state of Illinois, I think it depends if you're going to have a clearance level, right? So if you're going to go for a job that requires a certain particular clearance level, yeah, I think you've got to make sure that it's on there. But if you don't have a clearance level, they're not really gonna, I think it comes down to the job, yeah, you're going to do. If you're going to be sitting at, just at the DMV at a clerk, I don't think they're going to really overly care. But if you're applying to be a state inspector for something, I think they're going to.
Okay, so last question. Okay, the final question. If you have an opportunity to do it again in your career, so what are the three things that you would like to do it, change different?
No, I mean, I wouldn't really want to change like anything. I don't really want to live life with like regrets, I think life is a bunch of lessons you have to learn. And like, I guess my experience, I'm fine, Like, I got my job offer like a month before I graduated. My hiring manager told me on the spot, you have to move to Charlotte, North Carolina for 6 months. That's a huge stepping stone. I always lived at home in the northwest suburbs. So this was like, my only, you could say, only opportunity out of college, and just really just talking to my friends, my close friends, and and then it's, you gotta take it, Like if I didn't really take the shot, I wouldn't really, I had nothing really lined up, and just living in Charlotte for like 6 months, I just learned a lot about myself. I expanded my network, made new friends. I lived downtown, kind of stuff in Charlotte. Basketball, so going back to your point, you can't live life that's changed. That is something to move on.
I think something that I did well, but I wish I did more of, is utilizing the resources that the university provides to you. So, for example, if I got through a university program, in my case, as someone who was in the technical field at the time we were here, there were some certificates offered through the Google Street Developers Club that I was part of that I did take the time to take advantage of. And now looking back on them and wanting to kind of continue learning more, and seeing that price tag, I very much regret not taking that extra day a week to do those additional courses and things like that. So I would just say universities are meant to provide you resources to succeed and resources that you can't get other places. So make sure you utilize as many of those as you can while you're here.
Yeah, that's pretty similar to what I would say is my viewpoint. It's a bit difficult because when most of the bulk of my time here, the university was mostly remote or shut down because of COVID. but I would definitely, if I got to come back and had, you know, a full life university, I definitely wish I would have been able to even branch outside of just like the College of Business and Technology and got to join maybe like, I don't know, like a sorority or just got to engage with more of the clubs and just activities going on outside of my immediate network. Because obviously, you know, your immediate college and the people in your classes are great, but definitely taking advantage of all the resources possible and making the extra time, taking that time to go to things that aren't just the convenient things. Like I'm here only for 12 to 5 on a Tuesday. There's some event going on at 10 on a Tuesday. Just coming in the extra 2 hours, you know, it's inconvenient to me, but I could be meeting someone that is gonna eventually be that connect in 3 years for a job down the line. So definitely taking full advantage of all resources, not just in terms of like exams and applications, but just socially and branching out more. Which definitely, like, I don't consider myself super introverted, but I could see that obviously being a challenge. But pushing yourself to depend on your network, because I think once you exit college and you're not in a college environment, networking becomes 10 times harder. Like it's way more difficult because you have to force yourself to network with people by like going to these networking events where you're like and finding them, period. And then it becomes, it's like, okay, now we're playing the game of everyone here is desperate to network. And it's not as authentic. So definitely taking advantage to make genuine connections while you're just here. And it's as simple as going to whatever ice cream social you have. Or maybe you're just going to like Dia de los Muertos, like event they have. And just finding things that are easy for you now, because it's way easier now to make those connections and find people that you're gonna have a genuine connection with, because the university is set up for you to make those. Like it's the most convenient now to make those connections than it will be ever again. So definitely.
For me, if anything, I would have a triple major if I had one at a time, but I didn't have either one of those, so I didn't do that. But I think piggyback off of these things, then networking portion, right? So when you look outside against strategy, right? Look outside like Harvard, Yale, et cetera, all these folks that graduate from those universities, they all network with each other and they all help each other out down the road, right? And we're off of what Octavia just said is same here, right? We are the working person's college. We all graduated from here. This is a tough university. You have to earn it still to get through. Difference is that they're understanding that we're hard working. So with that being said, networking with everybody. Right? Everybody here, welcome to send me a LinkedIn invite. Okay. If you need help in any which way, let me know. I will gladly help. Okay. Same thing goes vice versa, right? Maybe one day down the road, I'm going to see a job on there that, hey, maybe you're working for that company. It's interesting. I want to go apply for it. Maybe you're going to know somebody, right? And I can reach out to you vice versa. And that's where it's building that network. And that's how you get to that next thing. That's a good point. I think that's the biggest thing that I wish I would have done more, is connecting. And there's a few people I'm still connected with, like on Facebook, because LinkedIn wasn't necessarily that big at that time. But even then, I didn't like really keep in touch with all of them. Now, if they called me for a helping hand or vice versa, I'm sure that would happen. But I think building those stronger connections, especially now you've got technology, it's, you know, super important. Like I had a random conversation with Lance, and here I am sitting in front of you. You know, like that little, you know, that little conversation, right, led to me sitting in front of you know, some amazing people that graduated from it. So
yeah, like we're all here just because we made that. I'm here because I was the vice president of the Google Developer Student Club, because of Amanda, because Sean sent me an email asking if I wanted to be friends. that's why I'm sitting here. Like, you know, like all of these things have to like, all the dominoes have to fall for us to all be connected. So take advantage of those connections. And for anyone who's like the typical, stereotypical college age people, don't be afraid to like make it. Don't be afraid to reach out and make those connections and really connect with like your older classmates, because they're just as valuable as as your other like college age students. So if anything, I mean, they're just as much as a wealth of knowledge as college age, typical college age peers are, because they already have working experience, and so they have a bigger network than that you can tap into than your current college.
And another thing too is like take like initiative, you know, be like a president of like one of the clubs. You're gonna be like the connector, you know everyone knows you. So you kind of get that credit and you build that reputation too. That's why I kind of started the investment society, the finance club. That club wasn't there for like was inactive for 2 years, you know. And, what? Oh no, it's not. The officers are represented, yeah.
I don't know about the investment society. I don't know about the finance club.
Yeah.
That's what they became.
Get one?
And also, I also want to encourage you not only join the club in the college, but also join the association in your professional areas also. For example, computer science, we have a lot of professional, associations here in Chicago, national one. And in finance, we have also investment society, or even in the project, we have the DMI Project Management Institute, and in the operation management, we have informs. So I encourage students always try to looking for, the global or national association. So you're going to have tons of connections people,
I'm also vice president of AMA. If you guys are in marketing, and you need to be part of the organization, just let me know. I got you.
Yeah. So AMA is one of professional association. For some time, the professional association ask you for subscription fee, but sometimes it's not also for students, right?
Yes,
So,
free for students.
Yeah. So try to take advantage of that.
Wrap up, but I will say for a lot of you guys, I know there's trepidation when you're a student, wondering when you're in a half, wasted, some experiencing job searches. Keep in mind, for 3 of them, I've known them when they were undergrad. I recently met Noah, but 2 years ago, these guys were walking around in jeans and t-shirts, and now, what you do while you're here, right? You're like Octavia said, this is a prime opportunity to make real connections now. These are people, especially when it's things that are associated within your major. There's lots of things you can get involved with on campus, right? You'll make lots of different friends in that regard. But when it's stuff that's regarding to your major academically within the college, these are the people that you're potentially going to be working with later down the road, or are going to be giving you opportunity later down the road. We have, like Bo was saying, you talk about places like Harvard, Yale, University of Chicago, they have like 150 years worth of alumni, right? This physical location, we have 50 years of alumni, right? They're 3 times as old as we are, right? But in that regard, that is growing. And the fact of the matter is, years ago, when I first started here, it was impossible for an accounting student to get into Deloitte. Now we have a girl that's in Deloitte that called us literally like just before COVID, says, hey, they're letting me hire interns now, right? It's one of our grants. It's now progressing, through those ranks. That's real world experience that she can give our students, that, years ago, they didn't necessarily have that option. So for you guys, it's a real opportunity to get to know people now. You never know what the future is. Absolutely, I applaud all of you for being where you're at.
knows, maybe 10 years from now, one of you become billionaire, so we're gonna have that connection too. Okay, thank you.